Wazoo sprints through the tall grass, fleeing his home in total despair after being betrayed by the girl he loved. Suddenly, he finds himself being hunted by an unlikely pair, a cat and a muscular fish. He dodges as they start throwing rocks, wondering how on earth a cat and a fish even teamed up to jump him. The monsters corner him with hungry looks, so he tries to bluff and tell them he'd taste absolutely terrible. They aren't interested in his excuses and let out a roar, leaving Wazoo thinking about playing dead as a last resort. He spots a bridge leading toward the base of a massive mountain and makes a run for it. He charges across the wooden planks, but the weird duo isn't about to let their prey escape that easily. The monsters tear into the bridge's supports, and Wazoo can only watch in shock as the whole thing collapses under him. He hits the bottom of the canyon, certain that his life is about to end right here. Just as the monsters prepare to finish him off, a massive shadow falls over the area, freezing them in their tracks. Ragnar, a colossal black dragon, towers over the scene alongside a mysterious skeletal figure. The dragon looks down at Wazoo, calling him a pathetic human who isn't even worth a snack. Ragnar lets out a massive yawn, telling him they have no interest in an ant like him before moving on. They depart, leaving Wazoo stunned that he actually survived a face-to-face encounter with a legendary dragon. He tries to head back, but the monsters from before are still lurking, so he ducks into a nearby cave to hide. Starving and desperate, he uses his guild card to slice open a strange fruit he found while watching some ants. He remembers joining the guild just to stay near his childhood friend Arya, only for her to end up with a hero instead. Thinking about her still makes his chest hurt, but he's stuck in this dangerous forest with no easy way out. He stares up at the S-tier mountain, where the weather is a constant nightmare of storms, fog, and heat. Hiding away in his cave, he feels like he's just waiting to die, too terrified to even step outside. 3 days pass without a real meal, and his survival instincts finally force him to start scavenging for anything edible. He's lost a massive amount of weight and can't stop dreaming of the hot meals he used to eat back home. Driven by hunger, he resorts to eating leftovers from other predators, forcing down stuff that tastes like literal garbage. He accidentally eats a poisonous plant that paralyzes his body, and as he lies there, a strange glowing light appears. The light hovers right over him, and Wazoo assumes he's seeing a ghost as he prepares for the end. He closes his eyes and drifts off, thinking the whole encounter was just a hallucination brought on by the poison. In his sleep, he relives the promise he made to marry Arya, a dream that was shattered when she was taken by another man. Wazoo wakes up with a renewed will to live and finds that, somehow, he's able to move his body again. His physical condition starts to improve, even though his daily routine involves eating things that make him want to vomit. Curious about his progress, he pulls out his guild card and uses a drop of blood to check his stats. The card shows his status, but the numbers look weirdly weak, even for a lowly rank F adventurer like him. He flips the card over and discovers a unique skill called Goddess's Sympathy listed on the back. The skill details explain that the goddess has been watching over him, granting him protection and a taste for bad food. Wazoo realizes that the glowing ball from before was likely the goddess herself, helping him survive. Suddenly, the text on the card changes, responding directly to his thoughts and encouraging him to keep fighting. Despite his terrible stats, he finds a bit of hope in these strange new abilities and decides to make the most of them. He leans into his training, eating poisonous mushrooms and pushing his body to the limit to build up resistance. About 6 months pass by, and all that survival training finally starts to pay off as he grows significantly stronger. He gains a new unique skill called Glutton, and the messages from the goddess on his card keep cheering him on. Finally feeling ready to hunt, he sets a trap and waits patiently for a monster to wander into his range. His first prey finally shows up, but it's just a jiggly, translucent slime wobbling toward him. He was really looking forward to some real meat, but he sighs and accepts that slime jelly will have to be his dinner tonight. Wazoo notices even the bamboo sticks and rock lizards are melting under the slime's acid. He remembers how adventurers usually keep their distance to avoid getting burned. He He thinks slimes are dangerous because of that acid, but then he realizes he's just standing right in the middle of it without a scratch. He picks up a small rock and decides to toss it at a slime just to see what happens. The rock completely obliterates the slime in one hit. Wazoo is stunned by his own strength and ends up spending way too much time cleaning up the mess. He takes the time to document every type of monster he's encountered in the forest on a cave wall. Now that he's finished, he's ready to move on. Having circled the entire forest, he realizes the only place left to explore is the mountain looming in the distance. While taking a break to eat, he wonders what his sister Kagani would say if she saw him looking this tattered and dirty. He spends the rest of the day making new clothes and shoes from monster materials, preparing to head for the mountain first thing tomorrow morning. It's been a year and a half since he fled from town. He decides it's time for another status check on his guild card. His stats have become absolutely insane. His HP can endure anything, and his strength is supposedly enough to smash a star. Even the goddess is unsettled by how strong he's become. Wazoo heads up the mountain, determined to test his true limits. The local monsters are so weak compared to him that they don't even count as a challenge anymore. He reaches a high ridge with a beautiful view and senses something massive heading straight for him. A colossal black dragon, Ragnar, swoops down from the sky, crushing several monsters under its weight as it lands. Wazoo is terrified but can't help but be fascinated. A real dragon, legendary and powerful, is standing right in front of him. Ragnar is surprised to see a mere human in such a high, dangerous place and asks how he even got there. Suddenly, a demon tries to take advantage of the distraction and attacks, but Ragnar swats it away like a fly. Annoyed that a human is invading his backyard, Ragnar tells Wazoo to get lost and go play somewhere else. Wazoo doesn't flinch. He explains that he's just traveling around, looking for anyone stronger than himself. Ragnar is amused by the human's audacity and offers to be his opponent, promising to hold back enough not to kill him. Wazoo accepts the challenge, though he has a sinking feeling he might immediately regret it. Ragnar moves into a combat stance, his sheer presence shaking the mountain to its core. Meanwhile, back in the Iskoa kingdom, Wazoo's sister Kagani is still searching for him in the capital's center market. She tells a local merchant that she hasn't found any clues yet, but she knows her brother is useless without her. Kagani spills her drink and yells in protest when someone suggests that Wazoo might have already found a beautiful girlfriend somewhere. A peddler notices her distress and offers to help, mentioning that he travels to many different towns. Back on the mountain, Wazoo catches Ragnar's massive claw strike with his bare hands. The dragon is genuinely impressed that a human could stop his strike. Realizing he needs to get serious, Ragnar unleashes a massive blast of fire breath directly at Wazoo. The flames die down, leaving Wazoo standing there completely naked. He's unhurt, but his hard-made clothes have been burned to ashes. Ragnar is shocked that a human could survive his fire breath unscathed. Wazoo is just annoyed that 3 months of work on his clothes vanished in a second. Wazoo tells Ragnar to take a look around as he prepares to strike back. He launches a punch that connects squarely with Ragnar's jaw, sending shockwaves through the air. Ragnar is sent flying back, crashing into the landscape with a deafening roar. Wazoo wonders if he might have overdone it just a little. Wazoo sits naked, waiting for morning to arrive. Ragnar eventually wakes up, amazed that a human could best him in a one-on-one fight. Ragnar lets out a hearty laugh, realizing he was beaten just for a set of new clothes. He invites Wazoo to his castle to get properly dressed. Wazoo introduces himself as a genuine human, and Ragnar formally introduces himself as the Dragon King. Wazoo enjoys the incredible view from Ragnar's back as they fly toward the castle. They arrive at a magnificent fortress that's far bigger and more impressive than any royal castle Wazoo has ever seen. Ragnar tells Wazoo to wait while he fetches some clothes, as his pride won't allow a naked man to wander through his castle. While waiting, Wazoo picks up a small, winged creature that's been watching him. It's Mir, and she seems quite curious about him. Mir squeaks and snuggles into him. but Wazoo's attention is pulled away by the sound of footsteps approaching. Mir perches on Wazoo's head as three residents of the castle, Rudo, Zeal, and Neil, arrive to investigate the intruder. Rudo, a high elf, launches a sudden attack, but Wazoo blocks her strike effortlessly. The residents are stunned that a naked human can withstand a high elf's blow. Rudo, Zeal, and Neil launch a coordinated attack on Wazoo, but he effortlessly blocks and dodges every strike without a scratch, even while completely naked. Wazoo asks if they're done yet, looking bored. The residents are stunned that he's unscathed. Rudo prepares real magic, while Zeal and Neil charge up their own lethal abilities, determined to take him down. Wazoo grins and invites them all to give him everything they've got. A nearby status window shows his humanity is at 88%, hinting at the cost of his godlike power. The battle is cut short as Ragnar's massive foot slams into the ground between them. The castle residents immediately freeze in terror. Ragnar orders Wazoo to get dressed and tells everyone to sit down and explain what's going on. A majestic white dragon, Meryl, introduces herself as Ragnar's wife and the mother of little Mir. She notes how incredibly rare it is for their daughter to bond with a stranger so quickly. Wazoo is shocked to learn Mir's true heritage. Ragnar is suspicious of his intentions, but Meryl silences him, choosing to trust Wazoo simply because Mir has chosen to trust him. Ragnar relents, formally entrusting Mir to Wazoo's care if that's what she wants. Wazoo smiles warmly, feeling a deep, sudden protective instinct for the small dragon. Wazoo spends a few peaceful hours playing with Mir in the castle grounds. Rudo watches from a balcony, still finding it hard to believe this human is as strong as he seems. Neil and Zeal observe Wazoo as well. Neil notes that he seems like a genuinely nice person, which Zeal finds oddly irritating even as he admits it's true. After spending several quiet days at the castle, Wazoo accepts Meryl's request to take Mir out to see the world beyond the mountain. He realizes this entire visit might have been a test of his character. The morning of their departure arrives. Ragnar tells Wazoo to be careful, but jokingly threatens his life if anything happens to his daughter. Wazoo is just happy to be moving again. Ruto and Zeal give him some final, stern advice to be bold and earnest. Wazoo waves a final goodbye as he and Mir begin their trek down the mountainside. Wazoo reflects on his path, figuring he's back near the area where he was wandering before. He suddenly hears rustling in the nearby brush. A cat beastman and a giant fish monster lunge out to ambush them. Wazoo effortlessly knocks them both unconscious with a single, uninterested punch as Mir cheers him on. Unsure of which way to go, Wazoo decides to seek some divine guidance and asks Mir to help him pray for a direction. He tosses a stick into the air and it points directly east. Taking it as a sign from the goddess, he and Mir head in that direction, though Wazoo is wary of the fortune anxiety the stick reportedly brings. After some time walking, Wazoo notices he's not alone on the road. He's surprised and a bit excited to see another human figure up ahead after so long. He meets a friendly peddler named Shiro, who is relieved Wazoo isn't a bandit. Wazoo is just happy for some human conversation, even if he doesn't have any money for Shiro's wares. Shiro is remarkably friendly, calling them friends almost immediately. After a pleasant chat, Shiro suggests they share a meal if their paths cross again before heading off. The peaceful mood is shattered as an arrow whistles past Wazoo's ear. He catches the next one in midair, his expression turning cold as he looks for the attackers. Wazoo is absolutely livid that someone dared to shoot at him and Mir. His aura explodes outward as he screams a threat at the hidden archers. He finds a group of bandits holding a young elf girl hostage. Her family is pleading for her life, but the scarred bandit leader only mocks them, tightening his grip on the girl. The bandits continue to taunt the elves, who are frozen in fear, knowing any move they make could mean the girl's death. Wazoo steps out from the shadows, looking thoroughly annoyed. He asks the bandits if they were the ones shooting arrows, as the confused elves wonder who this human stranger is. When a bandit tries to attack him, Wazoo catches the blade with his fingers. He tells the elves he hopes he's not too late to help as he prepares to end the standoff. Wazoo releases a sudden burst of power that sends the bandits flying like ragdolls. He apologizes to the stunned elf for the mess as the bandits are neutralized. With the bandits unconscious, Wazoo stands calmly in the clearing. The elves can't believe how easily this stranger handled a situation that had them completely paralyzed. The bandits scream in terror as Wazoo looms over them. He tells the elves to take the girl to safety while he makes sure these guys won't be bothering anyone else. A beautiful high elf named Salona suddenly appears, using her magic to hold back the last of the bandits. Wazoo is taken aback by her sudden arrival and her impressive power. Salona stands majestically, her silver hair catching the light as her magic swirls around her. Wazoo is mesmerized, thinking she looks absolutely incredible. With everyone safe, the young elf girl, Sheena, thanks her human Oni-chan with a hug. Salona and the others join in, expressing their deep gratitude for Wazoo's help. After some introductions, Salona invites Wazoo back to their village. Wazoo is impressed by their treetop homes, but a bit nervous when they start jumping between the high branches. Wazoo is warmly welcomed at the village and spends the night at Sheena's house. The family treats him like an honored guest, and he enjoys a rare moment of peace and companionship. Over dinner, the elves ask Wazoo about his journey and his incredible strength. They're amused by his simple explanations, but acknowledge that his movements were faster than they could follow. That night, as Wazoo looks out at the mountains, little Sheena boldly declares her intent to become his bride one day, causing a lot of laughter among the adults. The next morning, Wazoo finds a quiet stream to wash up. He reflects on how much his life has changed in just a few days, having made more friends than he has in years. While soaking in the water, Wazoo thinks back to Salona's cool magic. Feeling refreshed, he decides it's time to get out and head back to the village. He's suddenly frozen in shock as he sees Salona bathing in the same stream, just a few feet away. She's just as stunned to see him, and the silence is deafening. Panicking, Salona unleashes a powerful blast of wind magic at Wazoo, screaming for him to go away. Wazoo can only think about how badly he's messed up this time. Salona quickly grabs her things and flees, her face a bright shade of red. She's mortified, but she also can't get the image of Wazoo out of her head. Back at the village, Wazoo bows low in a sincere apology to Salona. The other elves can't help but chuckle at the awkward situation. Salona, still blushing furiously, tells Wazoo she's not mad and even apologizes for her magical outburst. She begs him to just forget what happened, and Wazoo is more than happy to comply. Salona is still blushing furiously, playfully threatening to report Wazoo's incident at the stream to the village chief. Wazoo is in a full panic, desperately pleading with her to just forget everything she saw. Salona breaks into a smile, revealing it was only a joke. She reassures Wazoo that the village chief is already deeply grateful to him for saving the children. She warmly invites him to stay in the village as long as he likes, while little Mir enjoys some attention from another elf. A few days later, Wazoo is out hunting with the elven warriors. When a pair of massive, horned mountain goats charge toward them, the warrior Luluna prepares her bow, but Wazoo steps forward, telling her he'll handle this. As the powerful beasts leap through the air, Luluna calls out to Wazoo in concern. Wazoo remains perfectly calm, a confident smile on his face as he prepares to intercept the charge. Wazoo catches the massive goats with his bare hands, carefully controlling his godlike strength to avoid a needlessly messy kill. Luluna is left in absolute awe, praising him for his incredible performance. The group returns to the village with a successful haul. The elves are increasingly impressed by Wazoo, calling him a true guardian of the village. Wazoo is just happy to be useful, while Luluna thinks about how even the formidable Salona would be impressed by his work today. The hunters discuss Salona, the head of the village guardians, and her history of protecting their home. Wazoo listens with interest, while little Mir rests on his head. The peaceful atmosphere is shattered when a wounded and panicked elf named Gazuna arrives. He gasps out a warning about a giant scorpion that has appeared on their hunting grounds, and says that Salona has stayed behind alone to face it so the others could escape. Wazoo's expression immediately turns serious at the mention of Salona being in danger. While some of the elves are hesitant, Wazoo doesn't waste a second, demanding to know where the monster is and racing off toward the large tree. Near the massive ancient tree, Salona is locked in a desperate struggle with the black-armored giant scorpion. Despite being covered in arrows, the monster is unfazed, and Salona is struggling to protect a wounded comrade behind her. Salona is determined to stop the beast before it can reach the village, but her magic is barely scratching its thick carapace. She urges the injured elf to flee while she tries to hold the line. The scorpion's heavy tail strikes, and Salona is forced back. Just as the monster prepares a final, lethal blow, Wazoo bursts into the clearing, his voice full of concern as he calls her name. Before Wazoo can reach her, one of the scorpion's massive pincers slams into Salona, sending her flying. Wazoo watches in horror as she coughs up blood, and his fear quickly transforms into a cold, terrifying rage. With a roar of pure fury, Wazoo lunges at the giant scorpion. He delivers a punch of such incredible power that it shatters the monster's armored shell and sends a massive shockwave rippling through the forest. Wazoo moves with blinding speed to catch the falling Salona before she can hit the ground. He holds her gently, his face full of worry, as Mir hovers nearby. Salona weakly opens her eyes to find Wazoo holding her. The other elven warriors arrive on the scene, frozen in shock at the sight of the giant scorpion defeated by a single, incredible blow. Wazoo tells Salona she's too injured to walk and insists on carrying her back to the village. Salona is flustered and embarrassed, protesting that she's covered in dirt and sweat, but Wazoo simply tells her he doesn't care. As they prepare to leave, a low, menacing rumble fills the air. To everyone's horror, the giant scorpion begins to stir, its multiple eyes glowing with a hateful red light. Despite her injuries, Salona tries to prepare for another fight, telling the other warriors to aim for its eyes while she tries to save Wazoo. She screams at the monster to let him go. To their absolute astonishment, Wazoo is already standing calmly atop the scorpion's head. He looks down at the beast with a bored, slightly annoyed expression, remarking on how surprising it is that it's still moving. To their absolute astonishment, Wazoo is already standing calmly atop the scorpion's head. He looks down at the beast with a bored, slightly annoyed expression, remarking on how surprising it is that it's still moving. Wazoo places a single finger on the monster's head, concentrating a massive amount of energy into a single point. He tells the beast he'll finish it for good this time, and the forest is suddenly filled with a blinding light. With the monster truly defeated, the group finally returns to the elven village. They are greeted with cheers and tears of joy from the villagers, who are relieved to see them all safe. Wazoo looks around at the smiling faces, finally feeling like he's found a place where he truly belongs. Wazoo and Salona head back to the village after the hunt. Wazoo's got that creepy hooded guy on his mind, the one he spotted lurking in the shadows earlier. Salona is still patched up from the scorpion fight, so the young man offers to walk her the rest of the way. He's genuinely worried about her, and she seems to appreciate the gesture. Being alone with her brings back that awkward memory from the hot springs. He starts panicking internally, wondering if she's secretly grossed out by him. They take a breather by the river under the moonlight. The elf girl thanks him again for saving her life earlier that day. Wazoo's too humble for his own good, apologizing for not being fast enough to stop her from getting hurt. She just smiles and tells him how kind he is. Salona admits she always thought she was the strongest in the village, but seeing him fight changed everything. The protagonist is completely blindsided by the sudden compliment. She seems relieved to find someone even stronger than herself. She looks at him with a soft expression that's got him even more flustered. Wazoo's face is beet red as he tries to process what's happening. Meanwhile, his companion is secretly hoping he might actually stick around for a while. Deep in the woods, Gazuna stares at the scorpion's remains with pure disgust. He's not happy about some random human ruining his plans. The hooded elf pulls out a couple of dark orbs, his face twisting into a nasty grin. He's done watching from the sidelines and decides it's time to take control. Gazuna stands before a pack of monsters, declaring that the time for his move has finally come. This guy is clearly bad news. Wazoo takes a moment to reflect on how far he's come. From a desperate runaway to a guy who's befriended dragons and is protecting an elven village. A week passes by in peace until a village girl comes running to his room. Things have taken a turn for the worse at the village square. Everyone's gathered to watch a duel for the title of head guardian. Salona stands across from a very smug-looking Gazuna. Wazoo rushes over to see what the commotion is about. The villagers explain that the silver-haired elf challenged Salona to a fight for her position. The stakes are high. The winner takes the lead, and the loser gets kicked out of the village for good. Gazuna's been jealous of her strength for a long time. An elder elf casts a massive magic barrier around the two fighters. He gives the signal, and the duel officially begins. The challenger goes on the offensive immediately, but the guardian isn't backing down. She blocks his strikes and looks for an opening. The crowd is clearly on Salona's side, cheering her on as she holds her own against her opponent's desperate attacks. Gazuna starts losing it, blaming her for everyone looking down on him. He's got this unhinged look in his eyes that screams trouble. He pulls out a dark relic called the Gospel of Darkness, vowing to show every elf who rejected him the true meaning of vengeance. Suddenly, a dark energy surges through the ground. Outside the barrier, the spectators feel a massive vibration as monsters start surrounding the area. The elder is horrified as a horde of creatures approaches the village. Gazuna just laughs, reveling in the chaos he's caused. Vicious beasts come charging out of the forest, and the villagers are left defenseless while the guardians are busy inside the barrier. The villain screams for the monsters to rampage as much as they want. Salona can only watch in horror as her people are put in danger. While the village is under attack, Wazoo stands calmly outside the barrier. He looks around, assessing the situation while everyone else is in a panic. Gazuna gives his opponent a twisted choice. Either kill him to drop the barrier, or stay inside while her village gets wiped out. Out of nowhere, Wazoo is just standing there inside the barrier, waving a casual greeting. The elf girl is completely floored. Nobody's supposed to be able to get in. The antagonist is losing his mind, trying to figure out how a human bypassed his magic. Wazoo doesn't even bother looking at him. He tells her to focus on the duel while he deals with the monsters outside. He's already taken care of the ones nearby, judging by the bodies in the background. Gazuna pulls out a mysterious red sphere, his expression turning even more sinister. He declares that this village will become her grave. He consumes the orb and transforms into a massive, hideous monster. Salona can barely believe the monstrosity standing before her. The beast lunges at her, sending her flying with a single blow. Wazoo watches closely, his face finally turning serious. He can't just stand by anymore. The young man steps in and stops the monster's next attack with ease, telling Gazuna that his interference ends here. The creature screams at him to get lost, but he isn't budging. He's furious that this guy actually tried to kill her. Wazoo winds up a massive punch and lets it fly, screaming out his feelings at the top of his lungs. Because I like Salona saying, the monster is absolutely vaporized by the force of the blow. As the dust settles, the protagonist realizes exactly what he just shouted in front of everyone. Salona is blushing furiously. She tells him she's happy about his feelings, but she can't leave the village because it's her duty to protect it. She looks heartbroken having to turn him down, but she's firm on her decision. He puts on a brave face and says he's going to keep traveling. Wazoo runs out of the village with Mir, trying to hold back the tears as he heads toward his next destination. It's a pretty rough way to end a confession. Sometime later, he wakes up in a new town called Linnock. A cheerful girl named Lula is there to make sure he doesn't sleep the whole morning away. Lula is all hyped up about the wandering hero staying at her inn. The young man is just focused on heading to the Adventurers Guild to get his life back on track. Wazoo is getting ready to head out, but it turns out someone's already here to pick him up. A woman named Emma from the guild introduces herself, and she's a real head-turner. Emma is incredibly pushy, insisting that he needs to change his clothes for the meeting with the guildmaster. She even offers to help him undress, which sends him into an absolute panic. He ends up sprinting out of the room to escape her help. Being around a beautiful woman like that first thing in the morning is way too much for a guy who's never had a girlfriend. They finally arrive at the Linux City Adventurers Guild. It's a massive, impressive-looking building that towers over the surrounding streets. The place is packed with all sorts of adventurers, including some demi-humans he's never seen before. Emma tells him to follow her up to the third floor, teasingly warning him not to stare at her hips while they climb. They enter the top office, where a massive, imposing figure is standing by the window. The man introduces himself as the Guild Master of Linux. The master turns around, revealing a bald, scarred, and very muscular face. This is Reagan, and he looks like the kind of guy you definitely don't want to mess with. Wazoo is frozen with fear until Reagan mentions his wife and daughter. He realizes this terrifying man is actually the husband and father of the sweet family he's been staying with. He can't help but shout his shock out loud, wondering how such a beautiful family could belong to this bald old goat. Reagan isn't thrilled with the tone, but he lets it slide. Reagan gets down to business, explaining that he wants Wazoo to take on a quest that other adventurers are too scared to touch. He's curious about how an F-rank kid like him survived so much. The mission is to investigate a dragon sighting on a nearby hill. A merchant spotted a massive silhouette 2 weeks ago, and Reagan wants someone to check it out. Wazoo is ecstatic when he hears the reward is 30 gold coins. He's so confident that he claims he'll just punch the dragon away if it causes any trouble. He heads out of the office, making sure to remind Reagan that he's not balding, just shaved. Reagan is left wondering if the kid is actually as strong as his daughter claims. Downstairs, Mir is busy being the guild's new mascot. Reagan's wife, Kayla, shows up with some sandwiches and water for Wazoo's journey, which he gratefully accepts. On his way through the city, he spots a girl being cornered by some shady-looking guys. He quickly jumps in and pulls her away before things get ugly. They duck into a quiet alleyway to hide. The thugs are left wandering the streets, frustrated that their target seemingly vanished into thin air. Once the coast is clear, he introduces himself as a friendly neighborhood adventurer. The girl is clearly relieved and thinks he has a lovely name. She pulls back her hood, revealing her name is Tada. Wazoo is once again amazed by just how many beautiful women live in this city. Tada is surprised that he's heading out on a dragon quest all by himself. He reassures her that he'll definitely be back soon and tells her not to worry. He notices a sad look in her eyes and can't help but try to cheer her up. He promises to return to the city as soon as the job is done. Tada watches him walk away, thinking what a strange but kind person he is. She gives him a small wave as he disappears into the crowd. He runs into the guard who checked him at the gate earlier. The man is shocked that he's going dragon hunting alone and with such light gear, but he wishes him luck anyway. He and Mir make it to the nearby hill. Wazoo checks the map Reagan gave him, figuring the dragon should be somewhere near the big lake. Mir shows off her storage magic by pulling out the sandwiches Kayla packed. Having a walking pantry is definitely going to make these long trips much easier. They take a moment to admire the sunset from the top of the hill. It's an incredible view that makes him appreciate how far he's traveled. As night falls, he reflects on how wide the world is. He wonders if he'll ever find a true friend who will stick by him forever. They finally reach a large cave. Wazoo calls out for the dragon, but the place seems deserted. He starts thinking maybe the sighting was just a mistake. Suddenly, a massive dragon appears behind them, and she's clearly not in a good mood. Wazoo realizes with a shock that it's Mel, Mir's mom. Mel is absolutely furious about something. Wazoo tries to get her to calm down, but she's way past that. Mir is just happy to see her mom again. Mel screams that she's left her husband for good and returned to her birthplace. Wazoo has stumbled right into the middle of a dragon family feud. Once she finally calms down, she explains the situation. Wazoo realizes the dangerous dragon everyone was scared of is actually just a very upset wife. Apparently, the black dragon king cheated on her with a red dragon. Wazoo can't believe Ragnar would be that reckless. Mel doesn't have a lot of evidence, so Wazoo offers to go get Ragnar so they can talk things through. He even offers to be a witness to make sure things go smoothly. She agrees to the meeting. Wazoo leaves Mir with her mom and sprints off toward the mountain castle to find the cheating husband. He reaches the dragon castle in record time. He finds Ragnar moping around, looking like he's in a state of total despair. Ragnar is surprised to see him. Wazoo immediately demands to know why he cheated on Mel, causing his whole family to fall apart. Ragnar swears he didn't do anything wrong. He explains that a dragon named Karel was aggressively hitting on him, and he didn't know how to turn her down. Wazoo isn't having it. He lectures the Dragon King on how stupid he was being and tells him it's no wonder Mel is so angry. Ragnar is terrified that Mel won't forgive him. Wazoo tells him that a sincere, wholehearted apology is the only way to fix things. They decide to head back to the cave together. Wazoo is exhausted from spending the entire day as a dragon relationship counselor. The next morning, Wazoo comes up with a faster way to travel. He hoists the massive black dragon king over his head like he's made of cardboard. He winds up and literally tosses the dragon across the landscape toward the lake. It's certainly quicker than flying, even if the passenger is terrified. Wazoo is back at the cave, and he hasn't come alone. He's brought Ragnar along to finally face Mel and settle their domestic dispute once and for all. Wait, there's another dragon here? It turns out Mel's mother is also present, making this a very awkward family reunion. Ragnar is desperate to explain that everything was just a huge misunderstanding. Mel's mother, whose name is Megel, is the former dragon queen. She's incredibly powerful and has no patience for Ragnar's excuses, forcing the Dragon King to kneel before her in shame. Wazoo finds himself caught in the middle of the argument. He realizes he's accidentally stepped on a conversational landmine by bringing the cheating husband back to his furious mother-in-law. Fed up with the constant bickering, Wazoo shouts at them to just be honest and make up already. He's tired of playing mediator for a couple of ancient, stubborn dragons. Wazoo tries to give Ragnar some relationship advice, suggesting he take Mel to a nice restaurant. He quickly realizes that finding a high-class restaurant for giant dragons in a human town is going to be impossible. Ragnar takes the advice to heart and promises to cut off all contact with the other female dragon. He's determined to prove his loyalty to Mel and his mother-in-law. As a peace offering, Ragnar decides to take Mel and Megel to the human town of Linux. He wants them to enjoy some delicious food and beautiful scenery as a way to mend their broken bond. Wazoo is confused. How are three massive dragons supposed to just walk into a human city? Megel finds it hilarious that he doesn't know their biggest secret yet. It turns out high-level dragons can use their mana to take on human forms. Wazoo watches in awe as a blinding light begins to transform the three giant beasts. The transformation is complete, and the results are stunning. Ragnar, Mel, and Megel now look like a group of noble, incredibly attractive humans. Wazoo can barely believe his eyes. Megel is ready to head to Linux, leaving Wazoo completely flustered by how hot the dragon family has become. He's a bit disappointed that Mir hasn't learned the trick yet. Elsewhere, the elf Salona is still searching for Wazoo. It's been 10 days since he left the village, and she's starting to get really worried about where he might be. She's followed his trail to a trade harbor, wondering if he's already hopped on a ship to another continent. The thought of never seeing him again makes her heart ache. Salona starts imagining a future where she and Wazoo are always together, but then she panics. What if he's already found other comrades and started his own harem? The idea sends her into a spiral of despair. She feels guilty for rejecting him in the past and wonders if she even has the right to stand by his side now. Her gloomy thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of a cheerful young girl. The girl is Lula, and she's currently running an errand for her father. She notices Salona looking down and offers her some freshly baked bread from a famous local bakery. Salona is struck by the girl's pure and uncorrupted eyes. She introduces herself and mentions she's thinking about visiting Linux, which happens to be where Lula is from. Lula is excited to meet an elf and invites Salona to stay at her family's inn. Salona explains that she's currently searching for a certain man, though she's a bit vague about the details. When Salona describes the man as aloof but cheerful, kind, and strong, Lula immediately gets a blush on her face. She has a feeling they might be looking for the same person. As soon as Lula mentions a young man with a small dragon on his head, Salona knows for sure it's Wazoo. She's shocked to learn that he's actually staying at Lula's inn and working for her father. Salona can't believe her luck. She's walked all the way from the elven village just to return Wazoo's guild card. But Lula is more interested in whether she loves him or not. Lula teases Salona, saying she's an open book when it comes to her feelings. Salona gets incredibly flustered, insisting that her heart isn't ready to join any kind of harem yet. Lula mentions that Wazoo is currently out on a job her dad gave him, but Salona is welcome to wait at the inn. Salona is nervous, wondering if Wazoo will even accept her when he returns. The two girls start making their way back toward Linux. Salona is daydreaming about going on adventures with just the two of them, her heart racing at the mere thought of it. Suddenly, Lula spots Wazoo in the distance. Salona freezes up, her heart pounding against her ribs as she sees the man she's been searching for. Wazoo is surrounded by three very attractive people. Salona is immediately hit with a wave of jealousy, wondering who these new friends of his are. She watches them from afar, feeling a bit dejected. She knows Wazoo is a kind and reliable person, so it's only natural that he'd make new friends, but it still stings to see him with others. When Lula tells her to go say hi, Salona panics and runs away. She tells Lula to just deliver the guild card for her, saying she has other things to do. All of a sudden, Lula is left completely confused by the elf's sudden departure. Meanwhile, Salona is hiding behind a tree, cursing herself for being so cowardly when she'd been looking forward to this meeting for so long. She wishes she could just apologize and ask to join his group, but the words just won't come. She feels like a jerk for the way she acted toward him in the past. Watching Wazoo smile from a distance makes her feel both lonely and frustrated. She's stuck in a whirlwind of emotions, not knowing how to bridge the gap between them. She clutches her chest, feeling a sharp pain that she can't quite explain. It's a feeling of deep regret and longing that she's never experienced before. She finally realizes the truth. She's already fallen head over heels for Wazoo. The realization is bittersweet, given how much distance there's between them now. Back at the guild, Reagan is having a hard time believing that the three beautiful people in front of him are actually the dragon family. Wazoo is trying his best to explain the situation without sounding crazy. To prove it, Ragnar briefly transforms his head back into a dragon's. The sight is so terrifying that Reagan immediately falls backward, begging them to change back to their human forms. With the proof provided, Wazoo is eager to collect his reward and head out for a nice dinner. He asks Reagan if he knows any good restaurants around the city that can accommodate their special guests. Lula arrives at the guild just in time to hand Wazoo his guild card. She mentions she met an elf named Salona, which immediately catches Wazoo's attention. He wonders if she's really here in the city. The next day, Wazoo takes Mel and Megal on a tour of Linux. The dragon ladies are fascinated by the human town, finding all sorts of interesting things they've never seen before. They stop by a shooting range, and Megal decided to give it a try. She's surprisingly good at it, hitting every target with ease and earning some impressed looks from the locals. Mel, on the other hand, isn't having much luck and ends up with a consolation prize. Wazoo and Lula continue their tour, noticing how bustling the entertainment district is. Lula points out a grand-looking building, which the dragon ladies find very impressive. Lula and the other maid are too embarrassed to tell them that it's actually the town's most prestigious brothel. Wazoo is treating his new dragon friends to a feast, but the amount they're eating is astronomical. Reagan warns him that even though they look human now, their stomachs are still very much dragon-sized. Wazoo is annoyed that Ragnar is already relying on him so much. Reagan changes the subject, telling Wazoo to come by the guild tomorrow to officially re-register and get his business in order. Walking back alone that night, Wazoo can't help but think about Salona. He's startled when the goddess's voice suddenly teases him for being so focused on one girl that he's forgetting about his divine patron. Wazoo tries to ignore the voice while grabbing a quick bite. He clarifies that he hasn't made new comrades for a party, just guides for the dragons. He gets a sudden chill, sensing that there might be some shady characters in this town. Back at the restaurant, Ragnar, Mel, and Megal are absolutely devouring the food. Wazoo is sweating bullets, terrified of what the final bill for this small feast is going to look like. The atmosphere softens as Mel decides to forgive Ragnar. The Dragon King's attempt to make amends with luxury food worked perfectly, and the couple reconciles with a very public and embarrassing hug. The next day at the guild, Wazoo is horrified to find his reward is nearly gone. Reagan reveals that the cost for the dragon family's feast and lodging were deducted directly from his payout, leaving him almost broke. There's a silver lining, though. The guild receptionist informs Wazoo that his rank has jumped straight from F to C. Since he can negotiate with dragons, they've decided to skip the usual tests and promote him immediately. Returning to the inn, Wazoo is teased by Lula. She's heard from Reagan that he's being taken to a nice place tonight, and she jokingly calls him a playboy for going out on the town. Wazoo is fuming because Reagan is charging him for the dragon's stay at the very inn where he's working as a bodyguard. Meanwhile, Ragnar and his family are relaxing in total luxury, completely oblivious to his financial stress. Wazoo prepares to head out with Reagan, leaving Mir in the dragon's care. Megal notes how everything in the human world seems to revolve around money, while Ragnar continues to act like a perfect, doting husband to avoid further trouble. Reagan has hired a fancy carriage to take them to the entertainment district. Wazoo is confused until Reagan mentions introducing him to a girl or two to spend the night with, making him realize exactly what kind of place they're visiting. They arrive at the town's most prestigious brothel. Wazoo is panicking, but Reagan insists they're just there to see an old friend who owns the place. He ruthlessly teases Wazoo for still being a cherry boy at 17. Inside, they are greeted by a stylish man named Garrett. Reagan introduces Wazoo as a promising young adventurer, while Wazoo tries his best to disappear into the floor out of sheer embarrassment. Garrett has already heard the rumors about the boy who can stand equal to the Dragon King. Wazoo feels completely out of place in the opulent setting, his eyes darting around nervously. Garrett invites Wazoo to pick any girl he likes for the night. A group of beautiful women immediately surround him, and Wazoo is so overwhelmed he feels like his brain is going to short-circuit. Suddenly, a stunning woman with long black hair steps forward, asking to accompany the wonderful gentleman. Wazoo recognizes her immediately. It's Tada, the girl he saved from the slave traders. Tada is beaming, clearly happy that Wazoo remembers her. Garrett is surprised, noting that Tada rarely shows interest in customers, but she insists that Wazoo is a special case since he saved her life. Tada leads Wazoo away, suggesting they become more than just acquaintances. To cope with the extreme awkwardness, Wazoo grabs Reagan's strong liquor and starts drinking it like it's water. The potent alcohol hits Wazoo like a freight train. He lets out a satisfied pwah before his eyes roll back and he face plants onto the floor, completely unconscious. When Wazoo finally wakes up, he feels something incredibly soft under his head. He realizes he's lying in Tada's lap, and the close proximity to her chest makes him let out a panicked "WHA?" Tada gives him a gentle, knowing smile. She explains that he fainted after overdoing it with the liquor, and Reagan entrusted her to take care of him in her private room. As Wazoo tries to process the situation, Tada starts to prepare herself for the night. The sound of rustling fabric fills the room as she begins to undress, much to Wazoo's growing alarm. Tada leans in close, her expression suggestive as she tells him he can do anything he wishes with her. Wazoo is in a total state of shock, his heart racing as he realizes he is absolutely not ready for this level of intimacy.